You mentioned that Freddie liked it. Does that insinuate the rest of the band didn't? Did you have lots of creative arguments? Being all songwriters, that must have happened quite a lot.
We did have a lot of creative arguments, but I mean, we still just got on with it. I mean, with Don't Stop Me Now, we just, okay, fair enough, it's another song, But yeah, no, there were loads of arguments. I mean, I think, but real good stuff is born out of discussion and argument, and I think that was part of what made us a good team. We were always banging our heads against one another's, and there's a lot of discussion and argument, but without that, there would have been a diluted end product, I think.
It's something of an anomaly just having 4 very strong songwriters in one band anyway. I can't think of anyone else immediately. I mean, even the Beatles and Ringo's songwriting, although I'd never ever criticise Ringo as a drummer because he was amazing, but as a songwriter, not sure. Do you think that's one of the reasons why you have such great longevity?
I do, actually. I think the fact that there were 4, we were very democratic. It really was a team, and we sort of shared everything, really. And it was very much teamwork, and one would support the other one when it came to writing a song, and Freddie was particularly supportive because he was undoubtedly the strongest writer at first, it was a great teamwork, and I think that is part of our strength. And there was no, Fred would always say, look, I'm not the leader of the band, I'm the singer, and he was the first one to always say that, and it was a great team, and I do think that's part of our longevity, really. Let's face it, he's not even here. We're still going in a sense.
Another One Bites the Dust is one of the records that's in your kind of mid-period really established you in America again. The rumour is that you refused to spend much time in America until you'd had a big hit there. Well,
actually, it's a funny story, really. It's actually it turned out to be our biggest ever hit in America. It sold about 4 million, I think, just in America. But it was the 3rd single, I think, from the Game album, and it was Michael Jackson's idea to release it. We didn't think it was a single. I certainly didn't, and I was completely wrong, obviously. But he came to some of our shows in LA, and he'd say several nights in a row, "You've got to release that track." Actually, he said, "You've got to release that track." But anyway, so we did, and he was right, and I was wrong, and we were wrong, and thank you, Michael.
It's just incredible that what is essentially, it's a funk song by a rock band, that's what it is, to top 30 dance charts in America. That's an incredible achievement.
But it was picked up by the R&B stations in New York, that's absolutely right, and I think they all thought we were like a black band, like an R&B band. They all got a bit of a shock when it turned out to be these 4 white guys called Queen. But it was great. It was a great period for us in America. I remember everybody, shouting on the street corners in New York, "You're bad, you guys, you're bad." Well, that means we're good. Oh, great,
Let's go! She walks merrily down the street with the people way down low. Ain't no sound but the sound of his feet. Machine guns ready to go. Are you ready? Hey, are you ready for this? Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust.
As if it needs saying, that was Queen's Another One Bites the Dust, the band's first ever US #1 single. And you're listening to The First Time with me, Matt Everett, and my guest, Roger Taylor. And we'll have more from Roger after the 6 Music News.
6 Music.
BBC 6 Music.
Under pressure. Pressure.
Welcome back to The First Time here on 6 Music, looking at some of the key first moments and songs from a musician's life. And today's subject is Queen drummer Roger Taylor. And you've just heard Under Pressure, the track Queen recorded with David Bowie in 1981. I asked Roger when he first met Bowie and how that song came about.
We were playing with Mott the Hoople at the Hammersmith Odeon, I think, and David turned up with Mick Jagger. That's probably the first time I met him, but we got to know each other very well, actually, and I think when we were in Switzerland, we were recording, and he was living there, so he'd visit, and we'd go out for dinners and stuff, and then one night we were jamming, we were playing old Cream songs in the studio, and then David said, well, why don't we write one? So we did, and we finished it off in New York. And I think personally it's one of my favourites, actually, of our stuff that we did. And David was absolutely vital to that, and he's such a brilliantly creative man.
It's wonderful, because I just had this image before, listening to the song. I have this image of all of you out there, nightclub somewhere massively glamorous and exciting, and just getting a bit smashed, and all of a sudden, why don't we go and do a song out of the blue, and just kind of it happening quite naturally.
Well, there was an element of that in it, yeah.
That's good to know. That's good to know. It's a staggering track. There's an incredible vocal performance, both from.
Yeah, they're both great, and I love David's a climactic sort of the end of the record. I think it's a great piece of writing, actually. Yeah.
Radio Gaga, one of your penned tracks, marked something of a renaissance for the band again. It was kind of, when it came out, it kind of saw renewed popularity internationally again. And you got the hand clapping.
Yeah.
When did you first see the audience doing that? Or was it intentional when you made the video to go, right, they'll love this. Everyone will love this. They'll be clapping. It'll be great.
Well, I suppose that really started with We Will Rock You. That was conceived as a sort of audience participation song. It really was conceived, and it's what it turned out to be. And I suppose that was only really an add-on to Radio Gaga. I saw Radio Gaga as a sort of, look, we're in the 80s now, and everything was very modern and sort of electronic at the time. So it was my sort of a stab at being electronic and modern at the time, and it was also a bit of a comment on radio and the sort of dominance that video was sort of asserting over radio at the time, which I thought was probably a bit too much, actually, and people were spending and paying more attention to video than they were to radio, and radio had always been a great part of our sort of growing up, and I just wanted it to assume its old importance. I suppose that's really basically the story behind it.
And of course, it was one of the highlights of Live Aid, which is regularly talked about as being being one of the greatest performances of all time that any band's ever done, ever.
Well, it's one of the shortest, anyway.
What was it like walking out on stage for that first song there? Because the pressure must have been, even for a band that had the experience that you had, must have been astonishing.
That's true, actually. I do actually remember being nervous. We weren't often that nervous, but we've been going quite a while. The sound on the stage, and it was such a sort of basic setup, and it was still daylight. The sound was terrible on stage, and so we were quite nervous, actually. There were no lights to help you, and really it was bare. It was going on pretty naked, but but we just sort of really went through it by memory in a way, because it sounded so awful on stage. We just sort of went out and belted it out. 17 minutes of, I think, six or seven songs, and over 17 minutes. Yeah, it was all over in a flash.
And that once again, that once again marked. I used the word before, another renaissance for the band. It kind of introduced you to a new audience and made people that loved you before realise why they loved you so much. Had it been getting quite difficult before that point? Had you kind of felt stuck in a rut to an extent?
I think you're very, very spot on, really. We were feeling a bit jaded, a bit tired. We'd done a lot of tours. We've been around the world a lot. And we sort of thought, we felt like quite an established older band by then, and we really needed a bit of adrenaline in our systems. And I suppose Live Aid reminded us that a lot of people really liked the band, and it was a wonderful sort of fillip for us, and it really reinvigorated us in a way.